Greetings, everyone. We're going to walk through my open source budget application that I wrote. Now, right now, it's fairly basic as far as you would just add your revenue and expenses, and then it gives you the balance. The unique thing about this is obviously you can select from different items. Say if I want to add something to this task, which our tasks are assigned from our task master. These are the same class tasks that'll be over here on your time clock here. You'll see them in your budget right over here. So let's just say I want to add some new stuff. And it's revenue, or actually let's make it expenses. That new stuff cost me $63 and $33. But then I got a bonus. And that bonus, I'll put it into revenue now, was $500 or $550, let's say. So there you go. Not a big deal. I mean, as far as how does this all work, I'm sure that anybody could probably do this. Eventually, I'm going to basically have this so you can do analytics and you can cut apart your revenue and see, a lot more detail of that, and then or your expenses you have, analyze them. The important thing here is, as you can see, I can ultimately make different. This web presence email address, I can have multiple different kind of budgets assigned to it, as many as I have in my task manager, as a matter of fact. So that makes it interesting. Now you can have multiple budgets per task, and or you don't have to use them at all, which would be kind of right here. So I don't have a task assigned. I'm just making a budget for no reason. Anyway, obviously you do your revenue or you want an expense, so it changes it to a cost as opposed to a plus. And let's just see, the data kind of looks like this. Anything that has a budget in it means that that's an ID for multiple items to be into a budget. Okay, so how does this all work? How did I do it? Let's go ahead and swing in, and I'm going to let you know that this is not a difficult task. It's all HTML and JavaScript, just vanilla JavaScript. So anywhere where I have the months, I went through each one of them, and I went ahead and populated the month's date. So that's super easy. And same with the years. I found out what year it was, and then just started populating the drop down. And then from there, declared some variables, and then this is the build list concept. So once the data gets shown up, it clears out what you had, and then it went ahead and goes through and see, hey, is this data legit? And if it is, it went ahead and creates, something readable. And then from there, we make sure that it can be kind of iterated through. And I start to ask it things like, okay, we're going to go through all this data now, and is it a positive or negative number? Because if it's a positive number, it's going to be going on to the revenue. And if it's a negative number, then it's going to be going on to the expense. And there'll be different colors based on, right here we got success for the plus and danger for the minus. And all going to be a tip on how to deal with currency. What you do is you basically, everything is put in with $, and then the two pieces of, your cents, your fractions. So forget all that, because currency is kind of difficult on the web. What I would recommend is you multiply everything by 100, and that knocks out the pennies. So now it's just one big number. And then you add all you want or subtract all you want. And at the end, when you have your total, your sum of whatever you did, then you divide it by 100 and get it back into a currency. Easiest way to do it. I mean, I've noticed a lot of times JavaScript will round when you don't want it to. It's very, very strange. So if you want to just get it done right, I would recommend turning out everything times 100, get your math equation correct, and then divide it by 100 to get you back into a currency. Just a tip. And as you can see here, you can float to make it look pretty, and the rest of it just gets populated. Now, removing an item, I just need to know what iteration it is, and I'm going to go through and ask it, hey, I'm going to go through all the tickets, and if there's anything that doesn't match, I want to push it back. And if it does match, it just never gets pushed to it, and I basically build my list based on my new item without the one that I didn't want. Basically, it's I'll take everything but that through my for loop. Now, append a list. I have to run, obviously, a little bit of validation to see if everything's correct. I got to make sure that's a number and so on and so forth. And if there's any errors, I'll stop it. But I need to know the person's email address. I'd like to save it under email budget, so if I ever need to come back for it. And then I start working with what I've got. I need to build out some kind of ID to assign everything. And then from there, as you can see, it just kind of works through, is this a revenue or is it, an expense? And if it's an expense, then we need to place a minus sign in front of the item so that we know. And then from there, we can move on with, hey, this is a negative number. Now, obviously, we're going to build everything out that we already have, and then, we can go ahead and add on to it. And if we didn't have anything, then, we need to basically build something that's iterable so we can push it in there. Now, this is kind of like the build list that we just walked through. Once we've got the new list, we need to go ahead and let it know. And here's where we're going to be setting it. So when obviously if we need to refresh or do any kind of downloading, then that's going to be able to be done here. If we already had something on the fly when we load up, I just need to build it based on that email. And then plus or minus is going to be, I'm going to asking it what functionality I want to use. This is back on the page here. I'm toggling between revenue and expense, and you can see here where the placeholder changes so that they know, hey, this is an expense or this is, I'm basically, I could have written two forms, an item name for expense and an item value for expense and an item name for revenue and an item value for revenue, but why? Just choose your function and make sure that, you got to validate to make sure that it's a correct number. But the real meat of this, I needed to get this done because the real meat of this is going to be coming later on when I build out the analytics. So you'll be able to click on items and then separate them out and then group them to analyze what you're exactly spending in different categories of your budget. But I needed to build this first. And, I feel like it's important to let you know even the basics of how I got started on something so that you can understand that these are very practical uses for accounting and any business. If you put this kind of stuff up online, people will stop using, software that costs money because it's fairly simple to do. And so I'm hoping that this will take the place of, a lot of people's expensive software and they could start using this. And I'll just make it more and more reliable the more I work on it. The software's never finished, so chances are I'll probably just keep building on it, and I hope you enjoy it.